this and offered kind of like the vision for this event. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about lessons specifically from starting, communities of practice, right? That's the topic. So what are some key things from specifically like that early stage, like design and/or first few months of starting a community? That's the focus. To do that, we're going to use a fishbowl format. So just with the raise of hands, and if you're off video, you can do a thumbs up or thumbs down. How many of you have seen or know what a fishbowl is? One, two, okay, a few, but not everybody. Okay, that's good. So I'll briefly explain, the format for the rest of you, and then we'll go from there. So, well, fishbowl typically in a physical setting, looks a little different. It's basically people in the fishbowl and people outside of the fishbowl looking at the fishbowl. What does it mean to be in the fishbowl? If you're in the fishbowl, you're the one who's having a conversation. If you're outside of the fishbowl, you're attentively listening, to what's going on. So that's the basic concept. In the fishbowl, you're talking with each other. Outside of the fishbowl, you're observing and then listening, listening in. That's one. Now what's interesting is that people, can come in and out of the fishbowl. So somebody can come out of the fishbowl, which means that creates a space for somebody to come into the fishbowl. So what that enables is basically participation. So if it's like 20 of us and we have 5 people starting in a fishbowl, for example, over the course of an hour, we can have however many rotations, people feel like having, and then eventually everybody may end up in the fishbowl once or even twice for however many minutes, at a time, while the conversation keeps on going. So in that way, it's really, self-organizing, right? Because people decide when to step in and step out. So when you decide to step in, if you feel like, oh, you have something to contribute, there's really something that can add to whatever's going on at that moment, that's your cue to, step in. And then when you step out, if you sense that, okay, you've been there for a little while, and maybe maybe you want to give the spot to somebody else, or you feel like you've said whatever most relevant thing is that you needed to say, and you want to sort of like step back, that's the opportunity. That's the time for you to to step back. That's pretty much all you need to know in terms of the like how to decide, what to do at any moment in time. In this case, in the virtual fishbowl, we have, several additional things. One is the chat. So the chat is anybody's welcome, especially if you're out of the fishbowl. You can absolutely use the chat and comment and kind of add to the conversation if you feel like it. So use the chat as you wish. And then, the logistics for how to enter the fishbowl or leave, in a physical setting is kind of straightforward. People see you and then you kind of come in and out. In a virtual setting, what we're going to do is we're going to use the video for that. And what I mean by that is that, once we start in a couple of minutes, I'll ask people who are starting in the fishbowl to keep their video on, and then everybody else, to turn your videos off. So that would be our cue. Like if your video is on, that means you're in the fishbowl. If your video is off, that means you're outside. And then, for somebody who wants to enter the fishbowl, it's literally just as simple as turning video on, right? If for whatever reason, you want to be part of the fishbowl, but you're unable to turn your video on at that moment for bandwidth or other reasons, then you can just write that in the chat. And then you can still be in the fishbowl with video off um, for that specific situation. Now, the intention is to have um, up to 5 people in a fishbowl. So I think we'll start with 3 or 4. Um, and then there's also there's the idea of a kind of an empty chair, so somebody can join, there. But we don't want to have more than 5 people in the fishbowl because it may get a bit too many. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off in a little bit more of a planned fashion to frame the conversation, start the conversation. And then for the purpose of that, like I'll start in the fishbowl, and and then at a given moment in time, like I'll basically turn my video off, which means step out, and that would be your cue for anybody who wants to kind of step in, to do that by turning video on. Now we can of course have a situation in which like 5 people simultaneously turn video on, and that's fine. You figure it out, like who stays, who goes, like that's however that happens. It may also be helpful to let's say we have 5 people in the fishbowl, and they've been there for a little bit of time, and a few people are interested in joining. If you're interested in joining the fishbowl, you can literally just write the letter Y. That would be our little symbol. I mean that expresses interest. And then for those of you in the fishbowl, I encourage you to yep, exactly. I encourage you to pay attention to the chat, and specifically pay attention to the letter Y, because if you see that, okay, I'm in the fishbowl, there's 4 other people with me, which means we're at capacity, so to speak, and there's 2 people writing Y in the chat, meaning they want to enter, that may be a cue for you to think, oh, should I step out at this time? Right. So that's, that's the basic kind of protocol, if you will, that I suggest. I'll stop here and pause and see. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about the format? Anything unclear, especially for those of you who haven't done it before, or maybe not in a virtual setting? Okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention that for those of you who need or want to, if you go to more, under more, and if you go to captions, you can actually see, if you go to view full transcript, you could actually see like literally like notes of everything so far. So if you joined late and you want to catch up on what happened earlier, or if you have trouble following for whatever reason, like that's your aid. So feel free to to use that. I know in the past people had requested captions, so that's the option for you if you need it. Okay. So with that, I think we can get started. So I'll invite Gladys and Didymus and myself to keep videos on, and invite everybody else to turn your video off. And I think we were supposed to have one more person, but who's going to be part of it originally, but I don't see Paul there, so we'll start like this. And so I think the invitation is we'll probably start for about 10-ish minutes or so. And then, like I said, if you'd like to enter the fishbowl, you can write Y, and then if you see that there's an empty space, you can turn your video on. If you need to or would like to leave, you just turn your video off, and then we manage it like this. So anyways, thank you, Gladys and Didymus, for joining here in the beginning. So I think the invitation is just for whoever wants to start, just share a little bit about your your community, and a little bit about the let's just start with that before we get into lessons. Maybe just you know, in a few sentences, community, like what's it about, who's part of that community, you know, what are the kinds of things that that you do.
Okay, maybe I can just jump in quickly. My name is Didmas Ngenene. I am supporting the International Labour Organization to run a community called Youth for Sight Forum. In fact, the Youth for Sight itself is a knowledge base which shares information about youth entrepreneurship, youth employment, and all the programming around youth issues globally. It's an initiative that is jointly offered by Generation Unlimited under UNICEF and the Decent Jobs for Youth under ILO. But I'm speaking specifically for one part of it, which is the forum, which is an open space where people join to share knowledge and discuss and build connectivities. We have to date about 936 members, and we expect to grow because we are growing quite phenomenally. That should be enough for now, isn't it?
Unless you maybe just want to mention what kind of activities you have, like what kind of
Okay.
member events or yeah.
Yeah, we actually participate in 3 ways. The first one is an open discussions where people pose questions, and through chat people start commenting and responding. The other one would be having an organization that comes with the topical issue that they are facing in their operations and puts it forward for discussion. And the discussion takes about a month going on. And building on that discussion, we then organize a knowledge cafe where we further discuss and elucidate the discussions and conclude that discussion and open another one again.
Right.
So it still remains open. People can still continue to engage with the text, can still engage with the recordings. We can still post questions about maybe the past events. But we have those 3 ways of intervention.
Perfect. Awesome. Gladys, what about you?
Hi everyone, my name is Gladys Kimboy from Kenya, but currently in West Virginia. So I have various communities of practice that I am part of, and some that I co-founded or founded in 3 years back after the World Bank training communities of practice on community certification program. So let me start first with one. Africa came community, which it came or gave birth to as a result of the training that Ray, Sarko, and Claudia and other members who took us through in 2021 by that time. And through that training, there was a lot of requests from Africans, those who are still new in knowledge management, requesting for membership on how to be supported in terms of knowledge management. Some were looking for job opportunities for how to navigate around, and also addressing issues on locally led development. So as a result, I formed this Africa Came community. Right now we have 120 members, and the first initiative was to seek support from Ray as a mentor. I reached out to him, we worked together on the charter, and then now the next initiative was to form the leadership team, which we have diverse members, and beyond that, there was also support from friends of UNICEF, like Ivan, who was very supportive in co-facilitating together knowledge cafe events, you know, to help the members understand what is all about knowledge management when it comes to development sector, or even related to SDGs. So since then, we've been having engagement, and as a result, the membership is growing. We have the academia, where we have various professors who are part of it, and also bringing people from the development sector, because initially there was a huge gap in terms of you have you have training on communities of practice from academic perspective, but zero knowledge when it comes to practical aspects. How we engage, we pair each other in terms of who needs support. Members post issues that they needed support in their organization, how to be supported on implementing knowledge management. Some need career advice, some need support related to a PhD program or master's at that master's level. And professors who are there, they provide support, guidance. And also we've been receiving a lot of referrals through kind of like members give testimonies of how the community has been supportive. And as the community continues growth, I still keep in touch with my mentor, that's Ray, and others, updating them about the progress. Community is growing. Where we need more guidance, they've been very supportive. But also, we have leadership diverse teams across Africa, so that it's not just that leadership is only guided by one person. So that is now for the African context. Now we have one for Kenya, which is Information Society of Kenya, that is specifically focusing on Kenyan related matters, because the needs for Kenya is not the same as other African contexts. And it is focusing only with young professionals who are students that are pursuing information science, which cuts across in knowledge management, library, and archives and records management. We have 300 members currently. We've been providing support on mentorship related to job and career opportunities, and helping them on how to join other local communities of practice, such as KM for Dev. And as a result, it gave birth also to contributed towards forming KM for Dev Young Leadership Forum, which currently I'm the team leader. We started in 2020. And kind of like, so the Africans and other different countries now comes and they've been given support through the Camp for the Young Leaders Forum. So we have mentorship programs that are happening. At the moment, the first cohort that we have is 84 members, and we've been having knowledge series every month with the support of Camp for Deaf mentors and seniors. Some have already retired and they come back like they want to keep, and providing that continuous support through the through mentorship program, career guidance. And now once we finish the first cohort, they are going to advance to another mentorship for the knowledge management, so that they are well ready for the job market, or to support the community when it comes to knowledge management and sustainable development. Over to you, Sergio.
Awesome, thank you, Gladys. So for both of you, so thinking back specifically to the beginning stages, like what's one thing that worked really well? Like what's one thing that you did or your team did that really helped, get the community started off, starting on in a good way, in a positive way, with like building momentum and whatnot. Like if you were to distill like various things that you did, like what's like the one thing that you felt like for you was like really important and really made a difference?
I think maybe in my case, we had this challenge that we set up infrastructure, and we have a group of people that just started, and we do not know who is going to start contributing and how is the contribution going to shape. So one key thing that worked well for us was to build our community discussions around ongoing projects, to identify one key important project that is running, which has multiple stakeholders, and we use that as one of the few starting meetings. So people join and they discuss because they are part of that project and they are attached to it. And by so doing, a lot more people will start joining in as these discussions start going. So I think that's one of the things that I felt it really worked pretty well.
Wonderful. Yeah. Gladys, what about you?
For our case was the demand and request for various community needs. And through that, you're able to see on how do we meet the diverse needs of these members, and also what really contributed is the leadership support and members who are willing to provide support to different participants or members who needed support. And we have also referrals. Once someone has been supported, they give testimony and refer others to join the community. And now we think it's more growing and becoming more vibrant.
Great. And what about something that didn't work well at all? Something that you tried, or even something that happened that you didn't expect, and that you kind of took a note for, like, okay, like we should try to avoid this in the future, or yeah, like the opposite of a lesson in the opposite direction.
Yeah, well, I don't think in my case, we thought we are not going to do it in the future, but it's still a challenge that we are grappling with. I would call that activating the keystone speech, as we know that in any online community, we have very few people that are very active and others that are so good at participating through following and not necessarily doing anything. And they are important, but we will be looking for those that are very active and are prepared to share. And in a given community, that's a very small percentage, like very, very small. So identifying those people is very important. And for us, when it comes to sharing information every day, we are getting a lot of youth that are active, but we are looking for experts that are implementing projects and facing real issues. And those people only join us when we invite them in formal events. But when it comes to everyday interaction, we are getting very few of them. And we are trying means to try to identify the keystone speech around that group of people to start meaningful discussions that are practical and experience-based. But it's still a challenge that we are grappling with.
Sure. Yeah. Gladys, what about you?
When it comes to leadership and vision of why we founded the communities of practice, because at some point, some leaders would like to divert the clarity of the mission of the community, maybe like kind of divert it into turning it into kind of like for monetary value, which if you go that way, then definitely the community is going to die, because that was not the clear purpose. And at some point you have, differences, and you'll be like, you need to stand firm on why the purpose of this community was founded here. So that was one of the challenges. And also platforms to use, because if you're only relying on a WhatsApp, today you will wake up tomorrow, the WhatsApp is dead. So what is next? So way forward to kind of like mitigate that, is to see how to collaborate with other like-minded communities of practice that have, sustainable platforms, because we cannot afford, to have technologies in place, because it's a voluntary community, and everyone, especially supporting young people, they cannot afford that. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. And maybe one last thing for me is, like, imagine you're, somebody who's never started a community of practice or network, or like some other kind of group, comes to you and asks you for advice. Like, what are sort of like some quick words of wisdom you would give that person? What are like these, what are the first things that come to mind that you would tell that person, when they're thinking about designing and building a COP?
What comes to my mind would be expressing the fact that it's not the easiest thing to do, in the sense that something has to be existing, the people or the content, and what comes first is just an egg and chicken kind of problem. But my advice would be very much being clear on the objectives of the community. What exactly do you want to achieve, and how do you expect everybody to participate? And without that clarity, you find people that might join but are not able to participate. So clarity on the terms of in terms of the objective of the community has to be one of my key things to point at. Over to you, Gladys.
Thank you, Kishana. For my case is to ensure that commitment and always be there to provide support, because you cannot just start community and you're not committed. If you're not committed, don't start. And again, make sure you build leadership team. It should not be tied by individuals. Let's not see communities dying or retiring. Yeah, we need to ensure that things like communities are alive. It's a living organism. So we need to water it every day. We need to make sure that it is always flowering and blooming every day. Yeah. So that is one of the key areas. And then also, members, we are collaborating and we are not competing. We need to ensure that we are complementing each other's unique style of leadership, innovations that they bring to the community, and always appreciating each other on how, what to bring to the community, acknowledging members, and that's where you see community keeps on, being more vibrant and growing.
Jean-Marie, I think you were next in line with Fishbowl.
Thank you. So you want me to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So here in Ottawa, in Canada, is in the morning now. So thank you so much for the invitation, and then thanks Zarko and Claudia for the communication we did. So I'm new to these community discussions, and then I'm here as a student in the beginning to learn how you do and what you want to do. But to introduce myself, I'm currently I have two community now. I'm involved in what we are doing to share with you our vision. So the first community we have now is based at University of Ottawa. Is a project I initiated for UN Habitat, United Nations Human Settlement. So it's a project putting together research universities in urban practice sustainability. So it's an international conference on Canadian, Chinese, African sustainable urbanizations. Why Canada? Why China? Because China, as you know, myself, I've been there. I did my studies, my bachelor, my master's. I've been working that country with UNDP, with the ILO project, with UN Habitat before I moved to Canada. So it's fast urbanization. Everybody know a lot of challenge. We can learn their success, their challenge in community base. So, and then why Africa is because urbanizing very fast today, and then community impact and sustainability is an issue for discussions. And why Canada is because we're here. So the initiators or professors in university in Canada, myself plus them, and then but it's been expanding with Europe and America. We have a lot of university involved in the project. It's an international conference we do every 2 years in Canada, in China, in Africa by rotation. So then we put together academia, people doing research, we put together local governments, we put together also the you know, community practice independent plus you know, and each of research is focused on particular aspect of community development. Some maybe in urban planning, community planning, eco planning, eco community. Some are involved in the water, technology, health, education, etc. So then in the end, we share the reports with the UN Habitat, with the university, but much more the objective for this in the beginning is knowledge sharing of what is going on in different regions for research, publication. Usually everything is based on a community. We have a lot of university researcher here in the US and in Canada that going maybe in different fields in Africa and China for profit to exchange. So the second objective for this is just to put them as partnership, you know, for learning together and publishing together. So this is the first community I'm involved the last 6 years here. So, and then the second stage of this probably would be what you call more action-based, because we're working on SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goal localizations. Myself, I'm more an urban economist, and my particular focus on the green economy and community-based development, eco-cities, something that I'm doing research on the city of Aurora here, the city where I stay. So, and then I'm going to share a little bit. So, and then I just share how they plan, what the objectives, what they need, you know, for them. So the second community I have with involved the last 4 years now is we call it the nature-based, the nature of cities. The nature of the cities we call TNOC Festival is actually was born in the United States, in New York. I share with Claudia a link we give to some people to check. So it's a growing social impact, community impact that it's bringing together more than 200 to 300 people around the world. Before the pandemic, it happened face-to-face in Paris, you know, like put together people from all over the world just to discuss community problems. And then, but the objective was to put them together in a partnership to see what they can collaborate in the action base. So 2020 and 21 has been online because of the pandemic. So now I'm on the board. Now we are planning for Berlin, the Berlin city. Germany is supporting this. So we're going to have a lot of activities. I think in April will be online, virtually. People who want to attend, I will share the link later. And in Berlin, we will be physical. Physical too is open also to people who want to participate, but the capacity cannot exceed, I think, 400 to 500 people. So because of capacity where they can receive it. So all the things are much more, as you understand, in more knowledge sharing and partnership. If you can promote, for example, the SDGs, they are 17 or those 11 plus. You know, this is improved because people talk anything, macro talk. We have seeds, we have artists in the streets, community ideas. You know what is going on, but much more focus on environmental, you know, engagement, etc. Yes, yeah. This is in a brief what I'm engaged because the last point I can say. So I'm involved also in capacity training. Last December we did a capacity training for youth universities. We have an international conference in Kenya, the fifth one, and then we did a training program just to share knowledge with the Kenya University youth, you know, how they engage in the community in the green economy and develop, in a sustainable way. and they need a lot of support, maybe for sharing with the international, because everybody was in Nairobi for that type of gathering, etc. Yeah, this is in brief, myself, and then maybe with the question, maybe we're going to continue exchanging. Thank you.
Maybe should I go? I think I'm Steve Glavinsky, an old timer on this, and just to talk about, I started in 1998, 99 with building communities. And I've done maybe 20, 25, usually there are about 1,000 to 4,000 members. It's with I started with the UN Development Program, and from the get-go, because we didn't have all the social networks or anything else, we just had email. It was really about, not just about, getting everybody together, but talking about peer-to-peer sharing. We had 136 country offices, and they all had the same job descriptions. And so one of them asked, how did you do this? They got many different responses of how different people in their jobs across the countries, how they did it. And it was quite successful within UNDP. It took off because I think people liked helping each other out. That was the bottom line. And since then, the communities that I've been putting together are based on peer-to-peer. Who's facing a challenge, and who can help? What kind of experiences? Where can I look for expertise? What organizations are working on it? These knowledge, I call them knowledge assets. And basically, what we have done when we build communities like this is we try to focus on different perspectives. So we try to encourage government officials, donors, academia, private sector, and NGOs to bring them together, because the perspectives make a big difference. You don't normally hear from other perspectives, and this is the way we track basically many things. One of them is vibrancy. How many people are participating? And I think that's what's interesting about the ones that we work on. They're full-time moderation, and I think, but I haven't seen too many other examples of this is this peer-to-peer networks. It's more about discussions. I'll give you an example. Didymus, I looked at the youth foresight community. I was there. I was in ILO in December, and I did some suggestions with Lena, who was anchoring it there, about how to increase participation and value. And that's what I suggested: get some people who have challenges, and build a personal connection, not just a discussion. What do you think? It's a brainstorming thing. But if it's a personal connection, you're building personal connections, you're building trust, and it's basically you're helping each other out, which is, I think, building that more personal connection makes it more active. And the participation rates that we get on these things are up to 20-25%. I have a vibrancy ratio that one of my metrics. So I think it's interesting, and it's something that I'm still working on, out of the UN now, but I'm still working with ILO, but also with other nonprofits, humanitarian sector, disaster management sector, putting these things together in that way. And I think, as I said, I'd love to find other organizations that are doing this peer-to-peer work, as opposed to just opening and having discussions, because I think that's the way to increase interactive vibrancy, get people excited about these things, get people participating, because they're helping each other out. Let me stop there.
Just a shout out, Steve. Actually, I saw your points that you raised about the community. Thank you very much.
Let's see. I hope they get acted on. I'm waiting to hear back. Anybody else coming in?
I see my name in the line. I'm Nurgula Silbekova. I am UNDP Gender Community Manager. And sorry, I joined late. I didn't hear the initial instruction, what we are doing for the moment. And I just want to share the challenges I'm facing, and I would love to listen recommendations from my peer colleagues. And we already discussed during our first meeting the low bandwidth of community members working at the field level. Yeah, so I'm here to see, you know, the meaningful intervention, like results of my work at the field level, at frontline country offices, you know, doing real stuff. And recently visited one of the country offices, and I had this very frank discussion, like, what do you see, what do you feel, what do you need? And the issue is, the two reasons I did the pre-session assessment, the two reasons why country office staff are not joining these global webinars or conversations online, you know, communication, because of like crazy workload, and second, they're not aware, and third, they don't really feel this global conversation actually somehow responding to the challenges they are facing in the specific country, in the specific project. And of course, we, as a global community manager, we cannot address the challenges of every project. Also, we are receiving this kind of request. But to convince people the value of this community discussion, in a sense, extracting knowledge lessons and synthesizing these lessons learned, the most important thing, what we can discuss, how to do things and how not to do things, what will work in this kind of context, what will not work, and why. This is like, I cannot fly to every country office, and if they're not joining, this is really difficult. And we are standardizing our communication, you know, sending these glossy, flossy MailChimp messages with what did we learn, what are the key takeaways. And I'm trying to make these takeaways, you know, not too general, not to go through ChatGPT, just summarize me and give me key takeaways, but making it very specific, you know, like in these country cases, what the speaker shared, you know, these challenges in the context of crisis, or I don't know, like a lack of political framework, how they did it. But it takes a lot of my time, and I'm thinking, am I strategic in this action? Am I doing right? Maybe because it's kind of, I'm being overwhelmed with this routine. Maybe, I should do something strategic intervention. And if you have this silver bullet, please do share. Thank you.
There's a question on the chat from Emil about the very first step that was taken to start the COPs. Just in my experience, usually it starts with a champion, somebody who wants to, who gets this and who would like to do something in their field to connect people, and so that they can share with them. And you get somebody like that, somebody who's an authority who hopefully could come up with funding to make it happen, because you have to pay for full-time moderators in our approach. And basically, that's the first thing. Then we work with them. They get a few key people together of their colleagues who should join it, and they define it. It's kind of how we're working here. A small core group comes together, develops the charter, and then starts signing, gets a professional facilitator, and they start signing people up to this, using that leaflet that I call it. It's the charter. So the charter is the selling point. And again, people who see themselves as being interested, that's where it goes. They start that up. Usually we launch these things online after we get about 150 people or so. That's kind of the approach I use. But and then it takes off organically. People tell their friends, you should be on this. You should join this. It's going to be interesting. The more people there are, the more knowledge to be shared. And okay, so that's how I do it. Maybe
Hi there, can I chip in? Can you hear me?
yeah.
Can you? Hi, this is Hank. Thanks very much for inviting me. Yeah, great discussion. To answer the question there, you know, the communities have to have a need. They have to have a case. I don't want to make a sweeping generalization, but 70, 80% of communities fail and die after 6 months. You have to have a business driver behind them. Why do them in the first place? And that comes down from either from leadership. Yeah, what are the burning platforms? So I've been in energy for about 15 years, and there we focus on real specific things where we have to have a fix. So I think from just following on from Steve, so peer-to-peer communities will just create anyway. And you know, you don't need community practices. I'm currently working in the nuclear sector, and there are multiple communities of engineers, designers. They're meeting anyway. They're going for a coffee, and they're running their communities. And the challenge I sometimes get is, well, what can KM do to help us improve that? So I think when you kick them off, you have to start with a little a small governance initially, because they'll see you as potentially a threat. You know, you're coming in from outside. But I think if we can bring some best practices to this, I think there's a real opportunity to do that. One example, again, I'm particularly interested with this community, is about bringing in communities which bring in different expertise from maybe academia and from private sector, public sector, around a particular opportunity or threat. So I was in the Middle East for about 8 years, and we were working with the state councils there around water. You know, there's a big threat around water and water shortages in the Middle East, probably also in some parts of Africa. And we created early pilots of high-level communities where we brought in academics, people from private public sectors, universities, to create communities of interest around water. And then for each area, we had about no more than 4 subject themes that we broke down into. So it needs a little bit of guidance around that. And then the other question is around the whole technology piece. You know, what Wi-Fi are we using, what tools? So that's a starter for 10. Any questions or replies or?
Let me just answer, then I'll give the table. I'll go out and give it to somebody else. But I use a rule when I put these communities together. It's very simple. If you don't get all the perspectives around the table, you're going to get the answer wrong. And so that's why you go out and I actually, one of my metrics too is a pie chart to look at the different perspectives and make sure that everybody who should be in the conversation is there. Just to support what you said. And let me go out.
Okay, I'll come out.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on an observation that really people need a clear logic model in terms of how to participate and how to move forward. I do really agree on that. But I have a question from the previous speaker, then I kind of couldn't pick the name. You talked about breaking down into subject pieces.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how that came about. Is it something that as community managers can decided and said we're going to have this subject, or something that came from the community?
Well, when you look at a community, you have to have some theme discussions. So again, rule of thumb is probably 4 to 6 particular themes in a community, and then subject matter experts will organically be created. So in water, it was around, you know, desertification or other areas such as that. And then you can start to have a discussion and chat about those areas rather than broader open discussions. I found that works better behind that. So you have subject matter experts within the community that you can go to. Of course, everybody can join in, but they become like a font for that pieces there.
Yeah, I asked, was it a challenge that we also faced at some point, that we had some subgroups, some sub-communities that we created, and we realized that there is not much activity going on in much smaller communities, and we ended up pushing most of the discussions to the broader, to the bigger group. And I'm still kind of wondering whether time.
I think it's good that we haven't spoken about like community champions for each subject area. I think that's important to have that, and then get their buy-in. Normally, when you kick you kick off the KM community, you know, everybody is fully supportive of it. But I think it's, you know, getting the right individuals as champions is key, and the leadership support, of course.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I would like to respond to colleague from UNTP. Sorry, I can't pronounce well your name. If you won't mind, please. So there was this concern related to working with diverse teams, especially across different countries, and how to educate them. It becomes a challenge even when it comes to time zones, and also language barriers, another aspect when we have people who are speaking different languages. And issue, I had similar challenges when I was working previously with Japaiko as a global learning and knowledge management advisor. And I was supporting diverse teams. You know, there were those who are francophone speakers, those who don't understand English. So what I did was to have kind of like create a meet with different country KM focal leads to understand the needs, and how do we build more COP champions from every country, and encouraging them to, you know, keep sharing. And one of the hard points that I did was to recognize every member who was contributing within the COP, and every Friday we had an initiative like having a Happy Fridays, you know, to recognize those weekly champions throughout the week, you know, those who have contributed. And I saw more engagement, more members contributing. And other things also within the organization, we had diverse communities of practice for specific area or area of thematic areas. So part of the initiative was to kind of like have a training on communities of practice, which we had developed as COP site, to help the country KM focal leads to understand why is it so important to help every members training various communities of practice that are related to their area of expertise. Because you realize some are not aware of why they need to be in a community. And as a result, now that it became more engaging and providing solutions. And then we used to have an assessment, you know, sending evaluation so that we get to know the needs, or if are we meeting the needs of these members. In addition to that is to ensure that you have leadership kind, engage with the leadership, either the country team, so that they can influence the staff to be part of the communities of practice and to be more active and involved. But one that works well, keep on, you know, appreciating them, keep on recognizing those who contribute, and even provide either rewards and recognition for community champions that engage. And that's when you will see more change. Yeah.
Thank you, Gladys. Thank you, everyone. Just sharing a little bit on the meta aspect here. This is also my first Fishbowl experience, and Zarko, I guess we are all learning, right, how it works. But it has been very interesting for me so far. So just to clarify again, I mean, if you want to join or if you want to say something, just please turn on your video. And something else that I wanted to say is that, I mean, we are sharing lots of ideas, of lots of lessons, and also challenges in starting COPs. I have a feeling that, I mean, after the session, what I want to do is, I mean, to go through what we shared so that we can capture the key lessons that have been, I mean, distilled so far, so that little by little we come and, I mean, have our own good practices, like all of you were saying. But also, what I'm thinking is that, I mean, these checklists of, I mean, these are the things that you do when you start a community, are available in many places. And this is also something that we can have later. And if you have a resource, please feel free to share on the chat. If you already, I mean, have some resources that you use to, I mean, here are the first steps that you should take to start a community. And so as a community ourselves, we can, I mean, start collecting or organizing those things. But for today, I mean, in the remaining time that we have, I think it's also important for you to, I mean, even if you don't have much of experience, that just turn on your video. This is your way to join the Fishbowl. And then you're going to be the next one to speak. There's not one facilitator, I mean, just moderating all the discussions as you already seen so far. And just picking up on some of the questions that were asked in the chat, I would also try to talk a little bit about, I mean, one of the things that, I mean, just resonated with me was Nurgle, and I'm sorry, I probably not pronouncing your name right, but yes, you are managing the gender community with UNDP, and you shared about the difficulties in getting, I mean, people from local offices joining the community. And yeah, that's, and I think you're on the right track. I mean, just surfacing the stories that are meaningful to people, especially locally. Just to say that, I mean, it takes a lot of your time, but you're trying to make these stories, I mean, pop up through, I mean, mailing, I mean, the mail team's communications. That is, I mean, super important. And I mean, I really, I mean, that resonates with me a lot. And something else that I think, I mean, happens there is that, I mean, it's an effort that in the beginning seems like you were doing a lot of effort in getting a little bit of participation. But when, I mean, you get to a point in which you get some champions, some of those people from the local offices coming in and speaking themselves about the value that they're getting, it does take a life on its own. And I mean, it's not going to feel like you, the community manager, are doing all of the job to get people to participate, but you have more people coming in and participating. And I mean, I understand what you're saying, because I mean, for a long time this this becomes like a huge problem. And one of the practical ways, I mean, that I've seen working is invite those people. I mean, those people that you already shared, I mean, some value that they brought from the community, invite them. I mean, just organize sessions in which you invite them to share what is it that, or their stories themselves, just so that more people see the value of the community itself. Because I mean, I think that's the key thing, right? It's on the value piece. I mean, when you are providing the value to the members and they are seeing the value in these connections, then it becomes magical to them. And so one I mean, tip was that, I mean, inviting them to share this, being like guest speakers in events or things like that. But also another thing would be creating those spaces for small group discussions during events, virtual events that you have. Because I mean, this is also something that I saw changing this mindset in a community that we had for it was a network in Turkey for social entrepreneurship, and we were connecting people from different sectors, from academia, from the government, and all. And it was a challenge in the beginning to bring them together. But I mean, little by little, that's what changed. And also what changed was the maturity phase of the community. Because in the beginning, it was a lot about, I mean, getting them to understand what a community of practice is, getting them to understand what is it that we can do together, facilitating some sections, and finding out what kind of the formula that works best for those events, right? And then repeating those formulas so that people become like familiar with those. At one moment, what we felt was that the community started evolving, and members were not interested in understanding what a community of practice was anymore, because that was clear to them, and they were coming in and participating and giving ideas, and taking the community, taking the opportunity to engage. So hopefully that, those small group interactions, breakout groups are super important. In the beginning, you have to be very structured in terms of giving instructions, guiding them to participate, almost like educating them in like this knowledge sharing and thing. But at one moment, things are going to shift, and they're going to kind of take control of this engagement. And I'll stop here.
Norgo, did you want to add something or mention anything else?
No, thank you. I appreciate, yeah, the recommendation.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Hank, for sharing. If we have about 5 minutes left, so I basically joined the Fishbowl again to essentially kind of wrap up and close out. So now for everybody, feel free to turn on your videos so that we can kind of check out.
Hi,
Awesome.
Zaka, it's Hank here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the great conversation. Just to let people know that there is a ton load of free COP material out there on the web. That's some incredible material. And I just uploaded something. I'm not sure if any of you know, particularly our colleagues from outside of Europe. It's the Community of Practices Playbook. It was written by the EEC a couple of years ago, and it's probably the most unbelievable COP book that you'll read. And it's free of charge to download. They charge for printing it, and in fact, they only will publish and post it in EEC. So the UK's left the EEC, so you can't get a hard copy. But it's an incredible A to Z, and it's up to date. So I think government money was put into this. So please take a look at that. It can guide you a lot. That's the knowledge sharing piece.
Thank you, Hank. Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. Because I had come across this, and I had forgotten about it, and
it's wonderful.
It's a good reminder. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So I think in the remaining time we'll do a couple of things. One, we'll check out, and then after that we'll do our typical kind of hazy ending. So whoever wants to stick around a little bit more to chat or say more or whatever, you're welcome to do that. For the checkout, as you know, we like doing like a little pluses and deltas activity to kind of get a sense of how this event went for all of you. So I invite you to the following first. Think of pluses. Think of like what went well today during our Fishbowl. Think about it. I'll give you 30 seconds, and then type it in the chat, but without pressing enter. Just type it in the chat, just in a sentence or like a little phrase. What went well in one phrase. Type it in the chat without hitting enter. I'll give you time, and then tell you when to hit enter. All right, if you're ready, on 3, 2, 1, and you can all hit enter. Great. Now I'll invite you to do the same thing. Well, if you're still writing and entering a plus, that's fine. But I'd like to invite you to do the same, but for deltas. Like, what would be even better? You know, what would be even better for next time? Same thing, like write in a sentence, but you know, hold on hitting enter. What would be even better? One sentence. All right, some of you are getting ahead of yourselves, but that's fine. 3, 2, 1. Feel free to hit enter for deltas. Yeah, instruction. Yeah, that last one is actually, yeah, should have done that for sure. Okay. Great. So now let me share a few next steps. I believe you all know, but if you don't, we had recently shared a draft charter, so it's really important that if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that and comment in a document, just look for latest email from from us. I know, well, a few of you here have already commented, so thank you. So that's really important. You know, take a look at that in the next week or so. You know, we have a couple of other members who had stepped up and offered to host events. So they're basically two in the being organized. So we'll see what they look like and when they'll be, but like late February, March. If anybody else is interested in hosting, co-hosting, in emails, we've kind of heard different ideas. Right now, just feel free to send us a note and we'll kind of help you co-host an event. This is purposefully kind of organic. And while this is happening, the next step after the charter would be to actually officially ask everybody who had originally expressed interest, which is now 187 people, I believe, to actually formally opt in, because when people originally expressed interest, we didn't know exactly what we were doing. Now we have a better sense and we have a draft charter. So the next step is to officially opt in. And then after that, to officially form a core team, like a governing team to steward, the space, going forward. Because with Claudia and Ray, we started this and we initiated and we're kind of holding that role for now, but we don't want to be the ones constantly holding the role. We want to make sure that this is fully co-created and the others are, joining in. So probably in a couple of weeks, we'll send information about, how that process would work, and hopefully very soon, within the next month or month and a half, we'll have a core team in place, a member roster with everybody who's opted in, so that you can actually see exactly who's part of this space and can talk to each other. Probably a platform based on the survey. There was an interest in an online platform for asynchronous conversation. So all of this, is pending in the next, month or two. So stay tuned for that. Claudia, Ray, anything that I'm forgetting or anything to add? Ray, you're muted.
Maybe put the link to the document in the chat here. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
sure. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Claudia, were you saying something?
Nothing from my side.
Okay.
Just to say that it was great to see you all and be together in this session today.
Yeah, thank you all for joining, and especially Gladys and Didymus for offering a little bit more about your communities and stepping up to start off the Fishbowl, because this is, you know, the most important piece. And for everybody else who joined, this is officially, you know, ending. And like I said, whoever wants to stick around for, you know, next 5-10 minutes, feel free, you know, to do that.
But I just like to say kind of one thing. I really enjoyed this session as well. I kind of detected a sense of hesitancy among people to speak a little bit. So, and I think that's one of the issues when you're starting community. And I think it will get better over time, because one of the key elements of communities, of successful communities, is a level of trust. And I think, you know, this is really only our first or second meeting, first real meeting about an issue. And so we're all a little bit hesitant, and, you know, should we speak? Should we put ourselves forward? I think as we move forward, you know, the level of trust will increase amongst us. And I think you'll see our community grow and become much more vibrant over time. So I think this is kind of one of the takeaways for me, kind of confirms again, it's kind of, you know, starting small, it starts slowly, and then gathers momentum as we develop this mutual trust and build our own relationship. So we're kind of eating, as I say in America, we're eating our own dog food here. So we're seeing how to build community in real time.
Thank you, Ray. Way to also sneak in some starting COPs lessons right at the end outside of the Fishbowl. That was very clever.
Yeah, thank you very much, Claudia and Zarko too. My last point. So we want to share also what do we have in the community challenge in general. So that they need more actions. Okay, the knowledge base is there, of course, to innovate, you know, the way they see things, but they need the really action base. You know, if there is more action to create really, I mean, best practice, they're going to see how much we're engaged. I say this because from the last 6 years, we've been more on paperwork and discussions on doing research, things that don't reach the community. That's why, in general, with the SDG localization, is very much really on the roots of people, accompanying them to see women, youth, social entrepreneurship. You know, they need a lot of action on the ground, more than, you know, on developing philosophical, complicated knowledge for them in general. So, but this is very good in the area of guiding them, coaching them, you know. This is the recommendation we got from our last conference, that more actions, you know, innovative knowledge to help them, you know, like to be sure, you know, there is an you know, because there's a disconnection between academia knowledge and the really action on the ground, including the international organization that put in money there. The community don't see clearly where the money is going. So those actions are really, instead of really, if we create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 action, that's why I wish in, you know, our next phase, maybe to think about, maybe we create a social entrepreneurship, maybe for a particular group of farmers or women, you know, to be sure really they can see something happening. That is including UNDP too. I've been working with a couple of projects to UNDP. Too much fun going, local actions, and maybe people they don't see clearly. That's the general critics they do for international organizations or something like that. But the more there is one action, 2, 3, and with the sustaining, I think we're going to win really what you engage, you know, what you are engaging now. Yeah, sorry, this is my last point for that.
All right, thank you, Jean-Marie. Yeah, Remy, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to go the other side, a little bit of theoretical research. I wanted to ask if we could, each of us, share what we know, each of us, as the 3 best-in-class COP in our field. And maybe you know, 3 examples times the number of participants in this team could help us, you know, rate the cups that are around and see if we can find a common denominator for successful cups.
Remy, how do you propose? You propose that we think and we share somehow, or like, were you thinking even like right now in the chat, or like how was it? Because I think that's a great idea. But
No, it's not urgent, but you could, I mean, if you find this as merit, you could ask the participants by mail to each select 3 cups that they feel are best in class. Somebody would need to aggregate the answers. I'm happy to participate in this task if there is a need. And then the next time, you know, we publish the the best in class of the best in class,
standing,
so probably the cream of the cream, and we ask how would we find a common denominator that made those cups so great. It's a little bit research, but it's short-term research.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Any other notes from anybody? Okay, I think sounds like it's time to go. Yeah, Gladys, did you want to say something?
Yes. Is there any platform where we can connect it together apart from email, where it can bring us together and new members would like to join? Way forward.
Yeah, that will be in the making. Yeah, Claudia, go ahead.
We are in the process of getting there, Gladys. As you, I don't know if you saw the chatter yet, but yeah, so we're receiving comments in the chatter, and I guess the main thing that keeps us from already creating like a LinkedIn group or something like this is it's kind of the name. We are still on discussion of the name piece. Please go in there and I mean just share what you think. But I mean, even if it's going to be a temporary name, as soon as we move on, just like Zarko was saying, with, I mean, having people sign up to a charter, because the next phase is, I mean, we are receiving the first comment on the draft. So we're updating, incorporating the comments, and then we're going to send an email to everybody who connected anywhere in time with the community and say, okay, this is what we agreed upon that this community looks like. Do you want to be a part of it? And then we move on to creating the spaces and then moving on with the next activities, who's going to be in the core team and all of this. But soon, I'm also looking forward to it.
All right, awesome. So stay tuned for more things. An email, and yeah, and then definitely take a look at the charter if you haven't already. See you next time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.